This week's episode is brought to you by Ridgeview, who've been producing world-class English sparkling wine since 1995. Their focus is on quality and sustainability from grape to glass, and their award-winning wine is revered all over the world. It makes every occasion truly something to celebrate. We're at Ridgeview's vineyard in East Sussex for a chat with the two people who sit at the heart of this English wine revolution. Tamara Roberts is the CEO of Ridgeview, and her brother Simon Roberts is the director of winemaking. This is truly a family affair. They're probably even more passionate as a family about wine than we are at White Wine Question Time, which, let me tell you, is some feat. So guys, welcome to the show. Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Lovely to have you here.
I've never seen a family business I want to join so much. When can I put my adoption papers in?
Tomorrow.
That's lovely. That's lovely to hear. Yeah.
Seriously, give me the backstory. I mean, you've walked me through some of your many vines today. I've picked some of them. We're just entering into harvest. You're 25 years in as a business. But this all began with your parents, didn't it? And their passion for the potential and the possibility of English wine.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think, roll back it's nearly 30 years now, which makes me feel even older. But when Mum and Dad said, we're going to plant a vineyard and make sparkling wines in England, which all of those things just sounded insane.
Well, square pegs and round holes spring to mind, right?
Just like... and I think Simon and I were just, at the time, doing very different things. I mean, you were yacht designing in Falmouth. I was up in, I just did my accountancy and things like that up in London. So we were both on slightly different career trajectory, which didn't involve wine in any way, growing grapes, doing anything like that. So I think we just looked at each other and just went, oh, okay, and watched as the vineyards were planted. From
I helped plant the vineyards.
Did you help plant? I watched.
Very begrudgingly.
I watched.
So your parents come to you at a stage in their lives where they're looking at, with one eye at retirement. There's a passion play for them, really, in wine and making English sparkling wine.
Yeah.
And you two are kind of humouring them from the foothills of your own independent careers. But your dad, it turns out, was not someone to be underestimated. And when he put his mind to something, he really could achieve almost the impossible. Talk to me about your dad, who's no longer, sadly, with you.
No.
But was a man of remarkable achievement.
Yeah, I mean, I think there was no doubt probably in any of our minds, which is probably why we were a little bit smiling at each other. This was going to be a retirement project. We knew full well it would go way beyond that. And I think Mum and Dad, they had started another business from scratch prior to Ridgeview, which was in the IT part of sort of IT area with IBM and various other things, and they grew that quite significantly before selling and being able to make the decision to go into Ridgeview. So we kind of knew where we were going with that. Retirement wasn't really a word. It wasn't there on the agenda.
But they were only our age.
No, they were a bit you're older, were they?
No, they can't be much older. So you say retirement, we're not retiring.
No, we're not. True, yes.
Yeah. So, but the thing is, through your young eyes, they probably seemed ancient.
Yeah, I think that's like I look to my children now.
Your dad had proved a lot of naysayers and doubters wrong back in the 80s. He became involved in computing in an age where we had no internet, no email. In fact, Tim Berners-Lee was probably still at school. And he had a strong feeling that every home at one point would own a home computer. And guess what? He was right. So when naysayers came along and said, hang on a minute, you're going to go into English sparkling wine, I think some people had to take your dad seriously because he'd already been there and done what seemed like, fanciful and impossible.
I think certainly from a family point of view, he was so methodical and so cautious about something. So even if it was as left field as putting a computer in everyone's house, if he said he was going to put a bottle of English sparkling wine in everyone's house, we were like, okay, cool, let's just do that. Brilliant.
So he brought you in for the ride, in as much as come and help out. We've got this new idea. And where did it come from? Where had his desire to create his own champagne or sparkling wine derived from?
I think there was a couple of sides to that. One was actually a real love for the Champagne region and the produce from there. So a lot of his celebrations with the businesses that he ran, in terms of people's achievements and stuff, would involve Champagne and would involve potentially a trip to Champagne. So he had a real affinity with the region. And then I think on the back of that, on the just in the estate or the industrial estate where he had his old business, I think there was a little bit of winemaking going on there from an older vineyard, not sparkling wines at that time. And I think he just poked his nose and said, "What are you doing? What's going on here?" And started that conversation. And I think probably there were some other producers as well who were an American couple had started Night Timber back in those days as well. And I think that had sort of got onto his radar. So I think there were just all of these different sort of stars, and they started to align around, I know what we're going to do. We're going to plant Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, Pinot Meunier, and we're just going to focus on making the best quality traditional method sparkling wines. They're going to compete at the Champagne level. They're going to be in all the best restaurants, all the best resellers, no farmers markets, get away from that where English wine was kind of in at that time. And we're going to be up there with the best, and we're going to win awards, etc. And that was from day one.
And you did, and you have, and
We
you
did.
are.
Our first wine that we released was English Wine of the Year. The very first attempt, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So that was our mission statement from day one. That was the level of quality that we would not go below.
You had a bit of a mountain to climb, though, because you've had to reframe people's view of English sparkling wine or English wine. It's always seen as a bit of a bottom of the barrel choice, or had been for so long, because we're not known for creating, probably due to the climate and the growing conditions, great wine, right?
No, I think that was fair, especially back in the day, wasn't it? So,
Yeah, I mean, I think we spent the first 10 years of getting people to taste the wines objectively was almost doing blind tastings and sticking our wines amongst champagnes and things like that, and just seeing whether people would, and particularly when we had tastings here, and seeing whether they could pick out what was champagne, what wasn't. And half the time they couldn't, and half the time, or I suppose actually more than that, the majority of the times our wines would come up on top, and we would put ourselves against champagne. We wouldn't shy away from that at all. And it's quite interesting, and then also with the naming of the wines, being careful. Ridgeview sounds a little bit Antipodean, maybe a little bit like South African, and just being a bit clever with how we marketed ourselves to get people to try the wines objectively for the quality that they were, rather than that, oh, it's English, I'm not going to like it.
Yeah, that must have been a battle, actually, to even get somebody to pop one of your corks and give it a go.
it was really tough, actually. I always remember we were at a tasting, a Laithwaite's tasting. So Laithwaite's, this mail order wine company, is so supportive of us, and they didn't know where to put us, so they put us at the end of the Australian wine stand. And these girls were coming past, and they were tasting all the wines. They said, "Oh, I love Bubbles," and they tasted, "Oh my God, this is amazing! I love it. Whereabouts are you from?" And we said, "Oh, we're just north of a town called Brighton." And they went, "What, in Melbourne?" And I said, No, Brighton, England." And they said, "Oh, is it English?" And even though they just said they loved it, they were, "Oh, okay," and then brought it away and walked off. And that was a really common experience back then.
So you've had a lot of ground to kind of sow and recover, really, in terms of trying to change people's idea about what your product is before they've even lifted a glass to their mouth. That's hard, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really hard. I think we had two sides. We had the consumer side, which takes a long time to persuade, but on the other side of it, we had incredibly supportive press from the wine specialists, as it were, and actually just local press as well, because it was a good news story. It was like, oh, that's won an award. And so we had this kind of two very different approaches. On one side, you were applauded and sort of thought to be the best. On the other side, it was very difficult to get people to actually taste and enjoy the wine for what it was. So it was quite interesting, that first, I would say, 10 years of that. And I think then you got into the second decade, where actually it was reversed. It was people seeking you out, looking for English. Why have you not English? Where's English wine? It's been a really interesting journey.
I think that also that's this last sort of 10, 15 years, people, it's almost like an awakening to just actually having a conscience about where your food and drink comes from, and wanting to be local. And we fit right into that criteria because we are local. We are something niche and new back then,
and good,
and good, yeah,
which is really important.
Listen, I mean, my mind has been blown at every twist and turn today. So we arrived here. This is the first day of harvest. I was excited. This is your Christmas. This is everything you plan for. You have 4 weeks in which everything comes together. You hope, right? Because there's no guarantees. And I mean, the grapes were delicious for a start. I had no idea that champagne is only called champagne because it comes from the region of Champagne, and that actually it's just a sparkling wine. I'm learning at every twist and turn today. I have enjoyed your wines. I've tried 7 of them now.
Yeah. Hopefully some more at lunch.
Oh my goodness. My livers. But so delicious. So delicious. Didn't realise that you could enjoy a red sparkling wine. And actually, every time I've asked somebody a question here, the enthusiasm is tangible. Like you've created a community of local people that love what you produce. How lovely to take your dad's pipe dream and turn it into this. I mean, when you arrive here now, you could be in California, you could be in South Africa. There's this state-of-the-art restaurant with views over your vines. You can watch the sun go down with plates that are prepared by an amazing chef to pair with the wine. Wow, you guys have done good.
Thank you.
We've been busy.
And I haven't even scratched on the awards you've won.
And I think that's it. And, the wines have to be, I mean, at the centre of what we do is the wine, and the wine has to be the best quality possible. And I think that's what, Simon is the custodian of that within everything, who we work with and everything else. But then across the business then and everything that we touch with the business has to reflect that quality. And that has to flow through everything in terms of how we work as a business and how we bring people in, how we treat our customers, our suppliers and everything else. I think it's so important that stems all the way across. And every touch point that you come across Ridgeview, there's a familiarity there which aligns with the wine and everything else that we're doing. And I think that's really important.
So if you're listening to this and you want to make the journey down, let me tell you, you won't travel as far as some of the people that we've met here today. As I lifted my first glass for the tasting this morning, a gentleman walked in who was a sommelier. He wasn't here on business. He's retired. He's travelled here because he's heard it was so good from Las Vegas.
It was amazing.
He's planned an entire European trip around culminating his journey through Europe here because he'd heard that much good stuff about your wines. And he wanted to take it back to the States and pass that word around for you. That's 27 years, 25 harvests.
Yeah.
Of getting your reputation to where it is now. Congratulations. And I know that I'm going to ask you to blow your own trumpets. Can you walk me through some of the awards that have been given out to you and your wines?
Yeah, where do we want to
Where should we start?
Start with...
Sounds a bit big-headed, doesn't it?
Doesn't it? Like,
but it shouldn't sound big-headed.
There's
like,
so many.
It's great.
I would say probably the one that stuck in my mind as the earliest one was the International Wine and Spirits competition back in 2005 for the 2002 Bloomsbury vintage. That was probably the one where it really dawned on me just how big that was, because we had people queuing outside the winery, and because we had such limited stock, we could only sell them one bottle each.
It's amazing.
That's
something. How you create a buzz, right?
Yeah, but we'd never seen anything like that before. I don't
you were
think.
limiting customers to one bottle.
You can only just have the one.
We weren't making very many back then, though.
We weren't. No, we were much smaller. But it was just seeing the power of that competition and just how important those competitions were. And then I'll let you talk about the next big one, which I think was a good...
Decanter?
Yeah, I think so.
So that was...
So Decanter, explain who Decanter are to the uneducated ear, i.e. mine.
So Decanter Wine Magazine is the most widely published wine magazine in the world. And so we'd won a sparkling wine competition. And most wine competitions have champagne as a category and sparkling wine as a category. And Decanter is the only international wine competition that has sparkling wine and champagne in the same category. And so in 2010, we are still the only winery outside Champagne ever to win that award. and that was cool.
You're the only champagne outside of Champagne, effectively, to have been recognised by those that really know. Wow.
And that was lovely because Dad was around for that, and you and Dad went down and got the awards. It was lovely. We were enjoying the dinner because we didn't think we were going to win.
And there was 3 wines with each course, and because we were like right at the back of it was at the Royal Opera House, and we were on one of the mezzanines right at the back, and we were like, well, we were up against 2 really big champagnes. We thought, well, we haven't won, but at least it's nice to be shortlisted. And the company was so small that we took everyone, so all 10 of us.
Yeah.
And we were like enjoying all of the wine, weren't we? And then when we heard we got the award, we had to walk down these stairs through all these rock stars of the wine industry.
But you got a standing ovation. We got a standing ovation across the whole industry at the Opera House for that.
Because you were the underdogs.
Yeah.
You were the guys that never should have, never could have, never would have, but you did.
Yeah.
How exciting. And how lovely for your dad to have been here to see the culmination of that.
Well, Stephen Spurrier was the editor of Decanter. He was a good friend of my dad. He was a really influential person in the industry. He had a tasting that's really famous in the wine industry in the 80s of bringing and comparing Californian wines to Bordeaux's. And so to be awarded the award from him as well was really special. And then my dad actually inspired him to plant a vineyard in England, which is really good.
And I think one last sort of, I suppose, key moment, I think, is when in 2018 winning the top award at the International Wine and Spirits Competition, which is Winemaker of the Year. So not a category win, it's like the Winemaker of the Year for the entire competition, wherever the wines have come from. And I think that was one of Dad's favourite competitions anyway. He loved that whole competition, the way it was run. But also it was kind of a little bit like, well, we've done that. Because it was the wines that you'd made, it was how we'd got to that point, and it just, I kind of felt to me a little bit like, I don't know, a little bit reassuring that we've actually done okay.
that you're not just travelling in your dad's...
No, that we know what we're doing, we're getting there, you know, and I think that was, and I don't know how you felt about that, but that's how I felt. I thought, actually, right, we've done this, we did this all by ourselves, and I love that, yeah.
I mean, when I say this is a family business, I can't underestimate or understate rather how true that is. So when you arrive here on site, Tam, you and your family live on site, your mum lives on site, and Simon, you're, not that far away.
No, quite not too far.
So the family business remains, even though the man that started it all, your dad, is no longer here with you. And that's a remarkable achievement. You're second generation winemakers already.
So third generation as well now. So all 4 of our boys work in the business in some format. Like Owen, Tam's eldest, is helping us in the winery with harvest. My eldest works in the warehouse. Both our youngest work in the restaurant at the weekends. So it's third generation now.
Third generation involved.
What I really wanted to land with this is that the next time you're in a supermarket or you're thinking about a big occasion in your life that you're going to mark and celebrate, think about how you're going to toast that moment and where that produce comes from. This is a family business, 3 generations in now, award-winning, to help you toast those moments in life that are well worth popping your cork for. And I hope that you really understand now what goes in to what reaches your glass and the love that's wrapped around it. I mean, these grapes are lit by candles. They're hand-picked and they have music played to them as they're being pressed. That's how loved this project is.
Absolutely.
A lot of love.
A lot of love. I'm a bit worried about the music though. What was that?
Wasn't my choice.
Wasn't Deftones this time then?
Not today.
Okay,
no.
great.
As a family that has created this business and lives literally on the land of this business pretty much, you're in each other's pockets all day, every day. How do you make it work?
We're really, Ridgeview wouldn't be where it was now without Tam, because Tam has, like Dad, has such an acute business mind and is logical and methodical. I'm probably couldn't be far more from the opposite. We've both got our own qualities.
I think the key thing there is that we all bring something to the business quite different to one another, and I think we all have mutual respect for what that is. and that brings a special something to the business as well, that there isn't just one person making all the decisions. It is a very collaborative position, and like you said, there is respect. I think of things in a different way to Simon, and Simon has different skills to me, and that all works perfectly well.
All four of us have different.
And all
both
four of
our
us,
partners,
yeah.
husband and wives work
It's
in
like
the business,
anything.
and it's
We're
everyone
not-
brings
yeah.
something to the table.
We don't tread on each other's toes, but I think it is the respect side of things as well. We have respect for each other, and I think that's really important.
So not only are you as brother and sister working together with your mum on site, your partners now work in the business as well, and then you all go on holiday together and still enjoy each other's time and company. I mean, honestly, I'll have whatever you're drinking.
Is that weird?
I think for some people it is quite weird. I don't know.
It is unusual. It's not weird.
Yeah.
No.
It's the dream.
Yeah.
I mean, it is the dream. If you think about farming families, it's been ever thus, right? That they would work together, they would pass the farms down to generations. So the parallels are there. But then to decide that, actually we're all going to take a couple of weeks off. Let's go together.
That's so funny. I didn't even think anything of it. Like, why wouldn't we?
No.
Yeah.
And your partners love the business as well. Your kids.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's hard. It's all part of our life. You know what I mean? It's hard to disassociate your work from what you do on a day-to-day basis. It's just what we do. This is how we live, and this is the lifestyle that we have. And I think that's probably everyone's involved in that way. I don't think of it as a career or a job. I think of it as my life, and I don't know how you feel.
No, I feel the
It's
same.
not-
I mean,
it's
it's like you say, it's farming, isn't it? It's like it's
Yeah.
all consuming.
Yeah.
It's just a bit more glamorous than growing.
And I think, just to be clear, we don't force our children to come into the business. That would. No.
Simon does.
Simon is doing that. No, I'm not. But I think, at the same time, you've got to give the third generation the opportunity to do something else as well. And I think you've got to be very careful that it's not a done deal or a you must type situation for coming into the family business. And
This isn't Succession.
this isn't Succession. Oh my God. Oh my God. No. I know. It's like, oh my God. You watch that and you think, yeah, we're okay. That looks fine. Anything like that.
Your dad obviously had a huge vision for what this could be, and you're realising that, and then some. Were he sat at this table with us today, what do you think he would make of your efforts and achievements?
Do you know what? I think about this a lot sometimes because we've, he had a vision to a certain point, and I think you might think differently, that we've taken Ridgeview like 10 times to what he wanted it to get to, and I think he would be pleased with the direction we've got.
Yeah, I think so. I think, obviously the vision was set around what was going on at the time of that, and I think...
Yeah, but he didn't want to sell it at the farmer's market. He wanted to go bigger than that. He had ambition for it.
And I think yeah, I mean, I'm sure he'd be absolutely delighted. I hope so anyway. Super proud, and probably just telling us, well, what's next? I can imagine him sitting there going, right, what's next? And I think that's a little bit what is how we think as well, is not, it's like, okay, right, settle. Right, what do we do next? And I think that's the key thing. How do we make things better? How do we make the offers different? How do we differentiate ourselves? And I think that's that whole kind of constant wanting to do something slightly different, slightly better each year is really important.
Definitely.
I've learnt so much today. Like, I didn't realise how ignorant I was about something that I drink a lot. And I wondered if you could educate me some more, and also bust some myths that sit around wine, because I think people often feel afraid to ask questions because they don't want to look stupid or sound dumb. Like, I didn't realise that red grapes made white wines. Does that make me stupid?
Not at all.
Not at all. No, in fact, I didn't know.
Did you not?
Before we started.
Good. Not just me then. Great. I didn't know that red wine could sparkle. Turns out it's delicious.
No, when you think most people's interaction with wine, sadly, is you go to your supermarket and you pick a bottle off the shelf. Yeah. Beyond that, people's, and even that is a really daunting sort of process for people because, you know, you've got grapes that are called slightly different things on different labels. You've got Syrah, Shiraz, which are actually the same grape, but just because of where they come from, they are different. So there's just a minefield of terminology and the labelling and
assumption.
An assumption.
I didn't know that Chardonnay was the grape that you made champagne from.
No, exactly. It's hidden.
Right? I thought it was made from champagne grapes. Does that make me stupid?
No,
Probably.
No, not at all. Because how would you know from a bottle of champagne? You pick a bottle of champagne up, it doesn't say what it is. It just says champagne, and you're like, okay, well, that's what it probably did. And I think as well is the way. I think one of the other sort of common confusions is around how wines are made sparkling. So Prosecco. So if you think of a sparkling wine, Prosecco being probably the most widely drunk now in the UK, but it's assumed that Prosecco is the same as champagne, is the same as English sparkling wine. They're very, very different ways of making them.
Prosecco is about the grape and the region, right?
Grape in the region and a very quick, cheap method of making it.
So Prosecco is your entry point sparkling alcoholic beverage, and then you move to sparkling wines, which are also champagne.
If it's the method in which they're made, so and this is really gets really complicated because how would you know? Traditional method is the method that champagne is made, and in most English sparkling wines, and that takes from picking the grapes to sale anywhere between 2.5 to 3 to 5 years in terms of length of time, whereas you can turn around a Prosecco in probably 6 months. 6 or 9 months.
So it's kind of the fast food of sparkling
and it has its
wines.
place.
And and it can be delicious, by the way. This
absolutely.
is not to
no,
denigrate
not
it
it's just
in any way. But to understand a sparkling wine, see, now I would have said that a Prosecco ranked above a sparkling wine in terms of quality because of my distorted view of the market, because that's how it's been marketed to me. So actually, a Prosecco is your entry point drink. Your sparkling wine is pretty much the same as champagne.
So the English sparkling wines, yes. Basically, you're looking at that level, yeah.
And is it true that the more you pay, the better the wine you get?
The $1 million question, isn't it? I think you pay for quality definitely, and I think you pay for winemaking methods to an extent, but
like handpicked,
definitely.
You should pay for that.
You should pay for that. That's expensive, and also means you've got high. I think it's all the things that result in a better quality product at the end of the day. And obviously, handpicking and selecting grapes in the vineyard will result in better grapes getting to the vineyard, not just whatever's shaken off the vines through a machine harvest. And it means they're not pressed before they get to the winery as well. I'm probably taking you should be talking about this rather than me, but I would say, that is a kind of a key thing about the quality journey for the wines. And also just think, a lot of sort of Australian wines and wines travelling far are pressed in country and then tankered over. To us and bottled here. So everything has its own journey from grape to glass, and and it makes a big difference, quality and price, I think.
Simon, as a man that loves to crush a grape, what do I need to know that I should know that I don't know as a wine lover?
So I think a lot of people think wine tasting is quite intimidating, because people use all these superfluous terms and phrases. But for me, it's all so subjective. Like, if you like it, you like it. It's not about how you can express yourself, how many syllables you can use in a sentence. I make wine to show and to share with people just that passion and love. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's most winemakers. That's what they do. They don't really care all the terms and everything. It's just about making sure people enjoy what you do, and it doesn't matter. That's all. That's as simple as it is. Yeah. Like, it's like when your mum makes, the best quiche, or your nan makes the best cake. They make it with love, so you enjoy it, and that's all we're doing.
That was what was so lovely to see today, when there was a man and a woman that had arrived here today to do a wine tasting that they booked in, having flown in from America on the strength of your reputation as English wine producers.
Honestly, I thought that was all part of today. Couldn't have been better timing.
I thought that you planted him there, and I was like, you don't have to impress us. We already like your wine. And you thought that we'd brought him in. But actually, to watch the pride on your face that somebody had made a journey across oceans to come and explore and understand better what you're doing here,
It was amazing.
Wasn't
It was
it?
really, really cool.
And this wasn't just like, this wasn't just some drunk like me. This was a guy that knew what he was talking about. He was a sommelier.
Yeah, I mean that was that was really special. I'm going to remember that for a long time actually.
Yeah, I
it's
think
cool.
it's brilliant. Just
Yeah.
shows how good your wines are, Simon.
We all
there we
play part
go.
of making it.
Yeah, no, I think it's brilliant. I think the other thing sometimes with is actually people don't realise that wine is an agricultural product and very, very reliant upon the weather conditions that you have during the year. So you will occasionally have vintages which yields are lower than perhaps the previous year, and so availability isn't as consistent, particularly in climates such as ours, where we're right on the very sort of cusp of being able to grow grapes for winemaking, really, and the weather is challenging. It's challenging. In some years we get given more, in some years we get not quite so much. And it's,
like this year in July, the July that we had must have caused a lot of furrowed brows for you guys of thinking, are we going to have a good harvest this year?
July and August.
Yeah.
It was really. I was getting quite worried in August actually, and then we had that amazing September, and it's all come good.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, you spend a lot of time worrying about the weather.
Weather watchers.
We really are.
But that's because we're sailors as well.
Yeah, I think I watch it more now than I ever was when I was sailing. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
God.
Now you're drunken sailors. Early in the morning.
Our dad would never have a drink on the boat, would he?
No.
No, too bloody right. Talk to me about sustainability and how important that is, and how compromising it is in terms of its cost. Because that comes with a cost, right?
I think you can look at it from that way, or you can look at it, I think, from a very different way. And I think the way that we've the business, or the values within the business from mum and dad, have always been around this idea of sustainability. And although that probably definitely wasn't a term back in 1995 when they planted the vineyard, every decision that they made and the way in which the business was built was around looking at reusing as much as we possibly could. So a lot of the stuff we started with was secondhand, and we maintained it and we looked after it. A lot of when we made a decision to make investments, part of that decision was always around sustainability in terms of the environment. Okay, what's the impact on that? Could we do it better? But also, on the other hand, is that an economics, right? Is it affordable? And a lot of the time, for example, I'll throw an example out there. We were the first in England to bring over what is a Lipco spray, which has 2 curtains that goes down each side of the vines, and it's super good for the environment, because if the spray doesn't hit the vine or a bit of the plant, it just goes into the other side of the curtain and gets recycled back. So you just keep using it. So you use a lot less chemicals. And also, so environmentally great, economically great, because you're not using as much chemicals as you ever did, so you're saving money. Mm-hmm. So your upfront cost is a bit higher, but your long-term value. And I think some people forget that, or don't think about that long. And I think family businesses allow you to think in that longer-term way, that perhaps short-term we're looking at the profitability for this year, and that's it. And I think that's been really heart of, and that's just something that we've built on.
But also, it sounds like sustainability is something that you had to adopt from the get-go because it was more effective in terms of your cost base, right? Now you get to the point where you're delivering how many bottles of wine per year? You're a big business, but sustainability is embedded into your culture.
Yeah, and I think that was, definitely something as we grew. We wanted, like anything, you want to try and, as you grow, you want to try and maintain the values of the business somehow. And it's quite hard because you're not touching every part of the business as you used to. That communication disappears, and other people have to make decisions on your behalf. So how do we do that? And one of the things that I'm really proud that we took on board during sort of the lockdown eras was to do the B Corp. And bring everybody in to do the B Corp sustainability accreditation, and we managed to get that a year
ago. So B Corp, just so everyone listening understands, is a badge of honour for those that look after their people, their produce, and that they are as honourable and they run their business with as much integrity as you would hope and expect.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
I think it's fair, and it's actually a really quite a stringent. It's quite a chunky piece of work for a business, because
in order to get that accreditation, you have to work to a level
Yeah.
to meet it, and it's quite
And you have
a tough
continuous
level.
improvement. You have to report back on it. Every year you're held to account on it. It took us about a year to do the journey and make sure we had everything we needed to do it. So it was a sizable piece of work. Which
And you're
brought
not
everyone
obliged to do it. You're
together.
not
No, you
obliged.
don't. Oh God, no.
But
By no
the
means.
So if you are shopping with a brand that's chosen to have to opt in to B Corp, it's because they care, and it will probably cost them more and damage their profits and create additional work that they probably haven't got the bandwidth for. But it tells you a lot about the business that sits behind the badge.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think once you get to know the B Corp movement a little bit and read up about it, you start seeking out the brands, and it's amazing when you're like, oh, it's
Well,
B
now
Corp.
I do in supermarkets. I
Yeah.
look for the red tractor because it means
Yes.
that it's been
It's
farmed
exactly-
fairly.
Yeah.
And B Corp is exactly that.
Yeah.
So look out for it
Yeah.
on all of your produce. And if you can afford to shop the brands that opt in, then you're being...
At least you know your money is
you're
going in the right
complicit
way.
in part of the solution
That's
as
right,
opposed to
yeah.
contributing to the problem.
That's right. Yeah.
Wonderful stuff. Congratulations.
Thank you.
The first year that you produced a harvest, how many bottles of wine did you sell, Simon?
So that would have been about just under 20,000 bottles.
And this year you'll produce...
Probably about 600,000 bottles.
Yeah.
Wow, that's what 27 years looks like.
Need to get a bigger cellar.
Constant.
Well, continued success. I am going to literally raise my glass to you. Thank you so much for joining us. And if you've got a hankering for a glass of something bubbly, then you know where to go. Head to ridgeview.co.uk to learn more about their amazing wine and buy some for yourself. Or if you're in Waitrose, you can always find it in there too, because life truly is for celebrating.